my friends, my community, they try, my doctor. When my appointed time comes of death, that's it. No one can stop death. So if I have a purpose...
Specifieke vraag die je hebt, want ik merk dat het niet echt een dialoog wordt, maar meer een monoloog.
Ja, this one though, like from all the religions, it's the Quran hoe zeg je dat, zoveel normen en waarden wel het meest ontwikkeld qua...
Normal values.
Like, from the Quran, values
From Netherlands.
goes the most for me, like in life. But it's like what you're saying, like surrender for the Quran. It's for a non-believer heart. It's
Surrendering means to say, look,
submit. I mean to submit.
yeah. Say, look, I know this is the truth, and I will accept it and apply it to my lives. For example, when you go to a university or a college or a school, you know that you are enrolled, and you accept that I am actually going to have to study to get a degree out of it.
Yeah.
If I don't accept that, and I then don't go sit my exams, I'm never going to get a certificate. This acknowledgement is important. When you acknowledge that you are a creation of your creator, you need to fulfill the purpose of your creation. Why you were created for? Because the creator did not create... Did we create those cameras for nothing? There is a reason and a purpose. Our creator created us for a reason, for a purpose. We need to fulfill that purpose. The Quran tells us what the purpose is and how to fulfill it. All we have to do is simply accept it with choice and apply it to our life. In that way, then we know that we are fulfilling our purpose, and when we die and we are resurrected again, brought back like again, in the hereafter, in heaven, is where we will go through the justice and mercy of God and His grace of God, and we will be saved from the punishment of hellfire.
To interrupt you, what would be a first step, an easy step to make? Because now we're taking a lot of steps.
The first and easy step is to acknowledge that the Quran is the scripture from God and Prophet Muhammad is from God as a messenger. So you acknowledge and submit that there is no God worthy of worship.
What's the step before that? Let's say the phase he is in right now.
First step is to reject that nothing is worthy of worship. Nothing. No tree, no camera, no human being, no girlfriend or wife. They're not worthy of worship. Only God is worthy of worship, who is one and only. Yeah? First step. That God is self-sufficient, independent, absolute. And then accepting that the way to worship this God is by accepting Prophet Muhammad as his messenger who told us how to worship. That's the next step. By accepting him as a guide, as a prophet who tells us how to conduct our life, how to operate our life, how indeed to worship our God that we said nothing is worthy of worship except God. The messenger tells us exactly how to. Because if I told you, like, okay, I believe in God, but I'm going to worship in my way. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to eat just chocolate every day. 5 chocolates in the morning, 5 in the afternoon, and 5 at night. And that's my worship. And that's my worship. Do you think that is acceptable to God?
No. He's eating chocolate 3 times a day.
No.
Subhanallah.
Okay,
Do you see my argument? We cannot make what is the purpose of our life ourselves.
Sorry?
God has to tell us.
Yeah, exactly.
okay, like I have a question about so the purpose for everybody is the same for the Quran, or
Everyone has the one purpose: to worship none but God.
From the worship point, it is the same. But from the life point, if I am mother, I have this duty to do.
Duties different. Yes.
Yeah, but from inside, yes, it's the same.
Correct. Lots of different roles and responsibilities and duties.
so throughout life you just worship Allah?
Yeah, and
That's
worship
the
is
purpose.
not something that, to give you an example, am I speaking to you and inviting you to Islam? That is considered to be worship. When I smile at my brother, how are you, my brother? That's worship. Removing a thorn, something that will hurt me when I'm walking, is worship.
Everything good before.
Yeah, anything that is in line with God and His messenger, of course, as explained, and God is accept that I'm happy with, it's worship. So our whole life, if we live our life according to how we should live our life, that is our worship. So what I'm asking, look, if you accept that there is no one worthy of worship, you already accepted the first part of becoming a Muslim, that only God is worshipped.
What is it? Because it doesn't matter how many intellectual arguments you give.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's emotional. Right?
Correct.
So if you give 2,000 more arguments, people might say, what would be a first step to open your spiritual heart and, let's say, relieve the cognitive dissonance of people?
So
Because you can give arguments.
So for boy, for example, he is already sincere. He's already sincere, and boy already accepts and acknowledges there is a creator alone worthy of worship, because there cannot be two gods.
I don't know, did you ask?
Yeah. Yeah. So he's already accepted the first part of becoming a Muslim. In his heart, he believes there is no God except God to be worshipped. The second part is just next step is to accept Prophet Muhammad as the messenger. So you have to now confirm, can this man, Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam, can he be prophet of God or not? So you look at what he has brought, his life and his teaching, and then say, this demonstrates to me that he has to be a prophet and messenger of God. If you look at his life, he is known to be truthful, trustworthy, a sadiq al-amin, someone who is truthful and trustworthy all his life. So he had no reason. This can be soon a heckler talking about Mansur, where is...
I have downloaded. I've got the medicine.
What did I tell you?
You have.
Second bullseye, right? Right. So ignore the hecklers, because they try always to interrupt our conversation. Always. So the next step is looking at Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his life. If we look at his life, we see for 40 years of his life. 40 years. Can you come on this side? Thank you. Right. For 40 of his years of his life, he was known to be someone so truthful and trustworthy. He never lied. He was always people, even the people of his other communities.
I read the first part in the Quran. It stands in there, right?
Second?
The first part in the Quran, it gives like he's truthful. How it started, actually. That part I read.
So the Quran, let's talk about the Quran. The Quran, can you come on this side? Please? Thank you. Can you make a wall in front of him? Thank you. Just make a wall in front of him and then push back a little bit.
How to make a wall against the sound?
Yeah.
Why are you afraid of you?
They know that people are hearing about Islam.
Yes,
They want to prevent it. They want to prevent it. Why? Why don't they speak up themselves on their ladders and have their own conversation to convince whatever they want to make people convince of? Yeah? That's the problem with certain Christians here. Yeah. They have nothing to convince of their own religion, knowing that they want to interrupt other people from accepting Islam. Unfortunately, that's the reality. In the Quran offers certain falsification tests. One of them is how to make it false.
No, I asked him. Falsification test.
Is dat niet, is dat we meer gewoon feiten waren, maar dat is niet goed.
Nee, zeg maar, er wordt een uitdaging geplaatst om dat uit te dagen. Snap je? Want als je dat bewijst, dan is goed, dan heb je gelijk. Maar die test wordt gegeven met God.
Is dat ook met Mohammed? Is dat niet?
Do you understand?
Is that the same with Mohammed?
You can also falsify or accept him by applying a test. For example, Hussein says, I'm the king of England. Can we disprove it? We can. We can, by using certain tests.
So you're testing him.
So you can test whether he's a prophet of God or not.
Okay.
You can test whether Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam was a prophet of God or not. You can test and disprove or prove it to be the case. Likewise, you can prove the Quran is from God or disprove it's not from God. Yeah? So we know the Quran makes certain tests that you can apply to it, and if it fails on that test, then you'd say it cannot be from God. To give you some of those examples, one of the examples, Quran says this is such a book that no one can make even a single chapter like it. Chapter like it. No one can make a surah like it.
Where does it say
A chapter.
that the Quran exists?
There are 112 surah or chapters in the Quran. The one I showed you earlier was one surah with 3 ayat, about 3 lines.
There is no Quran.
No one can make something like it in a linguistic stylistics in the language of Arabic.
Where
Because the composition is such that it is impossible to imitate its style. Every other human creation, like if you write poetries or music, someone else can imitate. But the Quran is such that it is demonstrated objectively that you cannot imitate it. The Arabs at that time were the best poets at their time. They failed. In subsequent times in history, even today, people are failing to imitate anything like this Quran in any chapter, let alone the whole book. Of course, they are trying and failing. Why is the question? The Quran says it's from God and you can't imitate it. The Quran also offers another falsification test. It says, look, if this book was any other than God, you would find in it many contradictions and discrepancies, inconsistencies and errors. Make sense? If a book claims to be from God, you would expect it to make some mistakes of history, some mistakes of the future, which is not yet, and it talks about it. You would expect it to make some mistakes of science, isn't it? That's what the Quran is saying. If it's not from God, you would certainly find mistakes and errors within it. People are trying. They can't find a mistake, an error, inconsistency or a contradiction in the Quran. If they did, and no Muslims were able to demonstrate otherwise, they have all the right and justification to say the Quran is not from God. Because the Quran makes that own argument. So,
There is no Quran.
so that's what I'm saying. This is a proof that the Quran offers falsification tests.
Ask the Quran.
That if this was the case, you should be able to falsify it. The facts falsify, you can disprove it.
Allah gave multiple tests to show it's true or not.
Exactly. Exactly the point. Because people can claim, anyone can claim, he can come at the book and say, God has written it to me, give all your money and your phone and your wallet. Anyone can claim. So you have to somehow test it. The way you test it is, what does it say about God? What does it say about this world? Does it make an error? Does it make contradictions and mistakes and so on? When you find that the Quran is free from all of that, you will have to submit intellectually, rationally and say, I accept this book is from God. So this is what we are asking. You've got two friends, Hussein and Yassin, who can help you further if you need to clarify any questions that you have. But so far, if you've heard, if I told you this is the case, would you even doubt that this Quran is from God? So you should have no reason not to accept it. Your heart should be open to accept and say, yes, I am ready to accept Islam. I'm ready to become a Muslim.
Yeah, but it's hard for non-believers. Like most people grow up with Quran, so it's like normal for them. But for people, for person who comes from a non-believer family, it's weird. It's weird to believe in like an upper person, even knowing like the Quran is the one and true and only, like with the truth and without testings. It's hard.
It's hard. But we need to accept the truth when we find it. That's what I'm asking.
It's not a blind faith. It's not a blind.
It's accepting, knowing the truth and accepting it. So if you lost your mother, for example, no, I don't want to bullseye on that one. If you lost your mother and then you discovered her and you have proven to her that's your mother, you're not going to wait and say, let me see what she does, how she cooks, and you're going to accept her with open arms. You're my mother. When you recognize the truth, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is the prophet and messenger. The Quran is a book from God. you embrace this truth.
Only 3 minutes.
And the
from
reward
that
for
day,
him, people like
if
him,
Mansour
who look
is
for,
talking about
who search,
Islam,
and then convince,
give me
it will be more
only 3
than my
minutes
son.
from that
born
day,
with religion.
and I will show you the lie.
Will be better.
Oh, Mansour.
Because you are being critically
That's
thinking, searching,
Not by born.
3
and
minutes.
concluding with conviction. So your faith will be firm, solid, and grounded. No individual like him shouting at the back will shake it.
Thank you. We will continue right now, but thank you for
All the best.
listening.
Take care.
Yes.
Do you have anything in
I
language?
already have this one.
Okay.
Give to somebody else. You start Dawah from today.
It's all right. So it's a pleasure speaking to you, boy.
you
Okay. I wish that you continue this search because we don't know when we're going to die. You and I can die the next minute.
Mansour.
What is important for our fulfilling the purpose of life, God says there's few things we have to do. Not only acknowledge the truth, but also declare it with our tongue. Make a testimony and start manifesting. No, not what I mean. Believing the heart, declaration of the tongue, and doing the actions with our limbs. In that case, then we are in the eyes of God a believer. Until we do that, we're like a searcher. God wants us to be a believer and die on the state of a believer. So I want you to really take your time without doing like, oh, let me leave it for another year or when I'm older. Because you don't know when you're going to die. Before death comes to us, which you have no guarantee when, you need to submit and surrender to this God by making that declaration and submitting with your limbs. That is so important. Because even Satan knows the Creator, but he doesn't submit. That's why he would not have fulfilled his purpose in this life. You and I don't only have to believe in our hearts, it is not sufficient. Declaration of the tongue is important. We become a Muslim, people know, and then within the faith community, we start practicing with our limbs, demonstrating that I am submitting to your God. Imagine you work for a company, and you go to your work, and you sit there, do nothing. You say, yeah, I know you're my boss. I'm going to sit there. I'm going to play on my phone. No, you have to show the actions to get the reward at the end of the day. God says you have to believe, declare, and do the actions if you really want to be saved from the hellfire. He doesn't want anything more. He says it's so easy, and He will guide you constantly. If you take one step to God, God will take 10 steps to guide you. If you come to God one hand span, God will come to you an arm span. If you go toward walking, He will come to you running. A metaphorical way telling you, once you're sincere and you're seeking, God will guide you even more clearly and so on. So I encourage you to take that step. If you come back again, I want to see you as a Muslim, inshallah. Take care.
By the way, it's not about born as a Muslim. We are born as a Muslim, but at some time we have to question our belief. So our belief is not a blind belief. We ask and search when we are young, and search and found that Islam is the most reliable religion that we can understand and believe in it. So it's not different if you were born in Islam.
It's easier to like when you're born with it, but I get it. Like you come to an age when you need to find you need to
Exactly.
research.
Yeah, exactly. In the universe, we have the same moment as you.
Thank you.
Take care, okay? So come over. All the best. Peace. You have to act as an ambassador of Islam in your life, in your actions. If he sees you acting in a way that doesn't appeal to him to be a Muslim, he's not going to
He's
become
been
a Muslim.
fasting for the last 5 years every Ramadan.
All the best. I am not doubting, but I'm saying it's important to remember this.
The psychological thing is something else.
You will be okay, inshallah.
Leave him.
Defend the Quran. Remain from your side. Mansour. Is this from Islamic awareness side?
Alex.
There is no Quran.